O Mother Nui, stretch high above this valley. Your starry body is our glory. Then see the hawk of yonder Rahur quit, his fiery splendor, oh so mighty. He brings a light for all our weary souls. He makes the broken spirit whole.
What if a 400-year-old drawing of, like, a man standing on the sun created centuries before we even really understood neuroscience held the exact blueprint for how your left and right brain communicate?
I mean, it sounds like science fiction, right?
Yeah, it totally does. But welcome to this custom deep dive crafted just for you. Today's mission is to basically decode this bizarre 1622 alchemical engraving from Johann Daniel Milas's Philosophia Reformata. We're going to see how 17th century metallurgical magic actually maps directly onto the modern mind.
Right, because we usually look at texts from that era and, we kind of chuckle at the primitive science.
Oh, absolutely.
But when you look closely at the specific engraving, it stops looking like magic and starts looking surprisingly similar to, well, a modern map of human psychology.
Okay, so let's unpack this visual for a second. We've got a bearded man standing on a sun, a woman standing on a moon, and they are holding up this massive cosmic globe. And inside that globe is what I can only describe as an esoteric matryoshka doll.
That's a great way to put it, yeah.
Right. It's an outer circle, which contains a triangle, which contains a square, containing a really tiny inner circle.
And unpacking that matryoshka doll reveals essentially a map of existence itself. It's how they believed the universe is built from the top down. So that boundless outer circle, that's the infinite divine mind.
Okay.
And the triangle inside it represents active creation, the dynamic forces that bridge the infinite and the finite.
Oh, like the three prime substances the alchemist Paracelsus talked about?
Yes, exactly. And packed tightly inside those active forces is the square. Now, the square represents rigid, earthly reality, basically the physical world made of the four classical elements.
Right. Earth, air, fire, water.
Right. And finally, trapped deep within those rigid walls of the square is the innermost circle, representing the divine spark or eternal soul embedded in matter.
Okay, but here's where I have to push back a bit. This whole sequence is clearly a visual representation of squaring the circle. But mathematically, because of pi, squaring the circle is impossible.
It is, yeah.
So did these alchemists not realize they were just chasing a geometric dead end? I mean, what's the point?
Well, the impossibility is actually the whole point.
Right, really?
Yeah. Long before modern math definitively proved it couldn't be done, esoteric philosophers used that paradox as a spiritual metaphor. Squaring the circle is about the impossible task of bridging infinite spirit and finite matter. And crucially, it has to be a two-way street.
Meaning you don't just pull spirit down to earth to square the circle. You also have to circle the square. Exactly.
Taking those rigid mortal limitations and softening them, elevating them back toward the infinite. Doing one without the other leads to, well, profound spiritual and psychological imbalance.
Okay, so if the circle and square represent this massive balancing act between infinite spirit and rigid matter, I'm assuming the man on the sun and woman on the moon are another duality?
Wow.
Maybe logic and intuition?
You hit it right on the head. The Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung actually realized that these alchemists were projecting their own unconscious psychological states onto physical matter.
Wow.
Yeah, he called the sun and moon the animus and animal logic and intuition. Jung viewed this specific nested geometry as a mandala.
Right, the geometric patterns.
Right. And he found that when a person's mind is fracturing under severe stress, the psyche spontaneously produces this imagery as a sort of psychological safe room.
But how does visualizing a shape actually protect a fracturing mind? That seems, I don't know, too simple.
Well, when the mind feels totally chaotic and overwhelmed, focusing on symmetrical, highly ordered geometry literally forces the brain to find structure. It effectively grounds the nervous system.
That's incredible.
And Jung saw this as a metaphor for the mind. But if we look at modern neuroscience, we see this isn't just a metaphor. It's actually biologically hardwired into us.
Okay, so we're talking about how the brain divides its labor between the left and right sides now.
We are. And neuroscientist Ian McGilchrist's work maps perfectly onto our alchemical drawing. The left brain is adapted for grasping, categorizing, and, creating rigid boundaries. It is quite literally the square.
And the right brain?
The right brain handles holistic context, continuous connection, and unbroken reality. It is the circle.
So, to avoid completely losing our minds, our brains literally have to square the circle every single day.
We do. When the rigid categorizing square of the left brain completely tyrannizes the flowing circle of the right brain, you get pathology. You get a fragmented, alienated human experience.
Which is so common today.
Exactly. We need the structure of the square, but we desperately rely on the flow of the circle to maintain context.
So the great work isn't about spinning literal lead into gold at all. It's the continuous, basically impossible task of reconciling our own inner structure with infinite flow.
The human being is the living crucible.
Which raises a really provocative thought for you to mull over as we wrap up. Our source argues that human consciousness fundamentally requires both the rigid square and the flowing circle. But as we rapidly develop artificial intelligence using purely square logic, rigid code, discrete categories, and finite data, we have to ask ourselves something huge. Can we ever create a truly conscious AI if it completely lacks the circle of holistic intuition? If the mind is built to need both, what happens when we build an intelligence with only half the map?